Life after The Big Bang Theory for the cast includes retirement, other acting opportunities, and even the jobs in acting in A-list movies. Fans welcomed the cast members into their homes for 12 seasons, and even the composer of the Big Bang theme song couldn't think the show would last. However, the nerd demographic proved tremendously popular, and the show recruited top-tier talent with multiple acting awards to their credit. The biggest names of the cast included Jim Parsons, Johnny Galecki, Kaley Cuoco, Simon Helberg, Kunal Nayyar, Melissa Rauch, and Mayim Bialik. As a group, these actors have pursued many projects since May of 2019. The cast members became very close, and many of the show's guest stars came from Roseanne, where Galecki also appeared. Kindred Spirits. The show resulted in a real-world match between Johnny Galecki and Kaley Cuoco. The on-screen couple broke up in December 2009, which was just when their on-screen romance became hot and heavy. The actors remained professional as they had been friends before the romance, and they handled love scenes with grace and professionalism. The regular cast members. The regular cast members included Emmy winners and actors from mutual projects with regular cast members. What are the actors doing now in life after The Big Bang Theory for the cast? Here are major highlights. Jim Parsons. Parsons ranks as the most successful Big Banger on the basis of winning 4 Emmy Awards and a Golden Globe, among other accolades. He played Sheldon Cooper and often stole the show from his fellow castmates. The character was spun off into the Young Sheldon series. Parsons is married to art director Todd Spiewak. Parsons is credited with doing the voiceover for Young Sheldon, and he acted in Hollywood, Staged, Boys in the Band, The Simpsons, and Pete the Cat. Parsons has appeared in many high-profile product endorsements and produced several products with co-star Mayim Bialik, including Call Me Cat. Johnny Galecki. Johnny Galecki, the traditional star of the show, often played second fiddle to Parsons despite stellar credentials. Galecki played Leonard Hofstadter, Parsons' roommate and best friend. Despite playing second fiddle, the experienced alumnus of Roseanne earned several award nominations on his own merits and was credited as the second highest-paid actor in the world in a Forbes magazine article. Johnny Galecki is trying for a trifecta of major roles by developing a new series where he moves away from comedy to medical drama. Based on the novel Catching Babies, the currently untitled drama will be an ABC production that follows medical professionals in their professional and personal lives. Kaley Cuoco. Kaley Cuoco, who played Penny Hofstadter eventually on The Big Bang Theory, started out as a terrible Cheesecake Factory waitress and aspiring actress who became Leonard's love interest and a major foil for Sheldon. Cuoco's salary eventually topped all the other actresses at the time except for Sofia Vergara. Kaley Cuoco also earned attention as the daughter of William Shatner in the Priceline commercials. After Big Bang, Cuoco starred in The Flight Attendant, for which she received a Golden Globe nomination. She married Carl Cook in June of 2018, but the couple called it quits in September 2021. Simon Helberg. Simon Helberg played Howard Wolowitz on the show. As a second-tier intellectual, Wolowitz only earned a master's degree, but he parlayed that into becoming an astronaut and marrying a very strong woman who frightened her coworkers. Helberg won a Critics' Choice Award. He was nominated for a Golden Globe for another project as Cosme McMoon in Florence Foster Jenkins in 2016. Since Big Bang wrapped, Helberg starred as the conductor in Annette. He's also starring in 2 forthcoming productions, Space Oddity and As Sick as They Made Us. Kunal Nayyar. Kunal Nayyar played the challenged Rajesh, who couldn't talk to women unless visibly drunk in the beginning of the show. Raj found ways to overcome his anxieties, but he never managed to find a regular woman during the show. His anxieties translated into big bucks as he became the 3rd highest-paid television actor in the world in 2015 and 2018. Nayyar has stayed busy with major roles in Sweetness in the Belly, Trolls World Tour, Criminal UK, Suspicion, and Think Like a D. In real life, Nayyar recently celebrated 10 years of marriage to his wife Neha Kapoor, so art doesn't follow real life. Melissa Rauch. Melissa Rauch joined the cast in Season 3 as Bernadette Rostenkowsk, who eventually became Miss Rostenkowsk-Wolowitz. The connection didn't provide an immediate connection, but 3 seasons later, Bernadette married Wolowitz. She became an immediate confidant for Penny and eventually cajoled her into pharmaceutical sales. Rauch spearheaded the remake of Night Court with her husband Winston Rauch and executive producer Dan Rubin. A big fan of the original series, Melissa Rauch pitched the idea to Warner Brothers with herself in the starring role. Mayim Bialik. Finding a suitable match for Sheldon was challenging, but the show's producers found a perfect match with Mayim Bialik of former Blossom fame, who played Amy Farrah Fowler on Big Bang. The role called for a neurobiologist, which Bialik actually is. The former child star received a degree in neuroscientist and made a perfect foil for Sheldon. Bialik was nominated for an Emmy Award 4 times. Bialik received accolades for her stint as Jeopardy guest host, and many people have pushed her candidacy for the permanent role. Bialik is now filming the 2nd season of Call Me Kat, in which she plays the lead role of a woman who canceled her wedding to open a cat cafe in Louisville, Kentucky. She and former co-star Jim Parsons produced the project. Kevin Sussman. Kevin had a regular recurring role as Stuart Bloom, owner of the comic book store where the gang of nerds frequently gathered. As a socially inept nerd, Bloom often seemed without a peer as he weathered one disaster after another. The character wormed his way into the Wolowitz household and became his mother's special friend. In real life, Sussman was an extremely successful actor, with credits for Ugly Betty and Wet Hot American Summer, First Day of Camp. Sussman has a recurring role in Elizabeth Merriweather's The Dropout, a limited 8-part project. He plays the Theranos Laboratory director, Mark Rossler, on the Hulu series. Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton landed an extremely challenging role, playing an exaggerated version of himself. As an actor in Star Trek The Next Generation, Wheaton played a genius-level child who grew up into a major role in the series. That made his character an ideal foil for Sheldon, and in one episode, Sheldon mimicked Captain Kirk's scream when he supposedly was outfoxed by Khan. Wheaton also won the coveted role replacing the Mr. Wizard-style character that Sheldon idolized as a child, which further fed the flames of jealousy. However, Sheldon had the last word, as he substituted Mark Hamill to perform his wedding ceremony after recruiting Will Wheaton for the job. Wheaton stays busy writing, blogging, and hosting podcasts that deal with science fiction issues and child star adjustment problems. He serves as the audiobook narrator for Ready Player One and Ready Player Two, among many others. Laurie Metcalf. Laurie Metcalf, who plays Mary Cooper, Sheldon's religious Texas mother on the show, another Roseanne alumnus. Metcalf won a Best Supporting Actress Emmy for her role as Roseanne's difficult sister. On The Big Bang Theory, Mary Cooper is the complete opposite of her high-strung son, but she still supports him when needed. Metcalf received rave reviews for her performance as Lady Bird Johnson, and she recently agreed to a recurring role on HBO's series Hacks. She'll join stars like Margaret Cho, Ming-Na Wen, and Martha Kelly on a series that reproduces legendary Las Vegas comedians as they prepare new acts. Brian Posehn. American actor Brian Posehn played the recurring role of Bert Kibler, a geologist. He won a $500,000 MacArthur Fellowship, which ignited jealousy in Sheldon. He periodically appeared in episodes like Shamey's Brunch, where he said that a girlfriend absconded with all his best rocks. Posehn stays busy writing, acting, and touring his comedy show. He recently contracted to write and star in an upcoming cartoon on Nickelodeon. Christine Baranski. Christine Baranski is a well-recognized actress who has won 2 Emmys and other acting awards over a long career. These include an Emmy for Sybil, a Tony Award, a Screen Actors Guild Award, a Helen Hayes Award for Sweeney Todd, and a Critics' Choice Award, just to mention a few. As Dr. Beverly Hofstadter, she was obsessed with raising her son Leonard as a psychology experiment. Oddly enough, she got along well with Penny and Sheldon, but her son was a disappointment. Baranski is now co-starring in The Gilded Age, an HBO series about classic theater. Both of her parents were active in Polish theater, and Baranski enjoys playing a Maggie Smith-type character. Brian George. Brian George is known for his rich comic character like Pakistani restaurateur Babu Bhatt in Seinfeld and gynecologist Dr. V.M. Kuthrapalli on Big Bang. As Raj's father, he often appeared in video sequences because he lived in New Delhi. His performances were excellent for establishing the spoiled nature of the father-son relationship. George pursues gem character roles as they become available. Surprisingly, George has a highly cultured English accent instead of the Indian or Pakistani accent he uses in most of his work. Carol Ann Susi. Carol Ann Susi played the off-screen voice of Mrs. Debbie Wolowitz, Howard's mother. She was amply celebrated for her role, but she died of cancer during her time as Debbie Wolowitz. John Ross Bowie. John Ross Bowie played Barry Kripke with his distinctive speech impediment, rhotoicism, which compromises the ability to pronounce the R and L sound as W, resulting in speech reminiscent of cartoon character Elmer Fudd. Kripke was a rival physicist at Caltech who maintained an ambiguous friendship with Sheldon and Leonard. Bowie regularly performs sketch comedy in New York and Los Angeles. He's also written for New York media, Go Metric, and the popular cult movie Heathers. Courtney Hengler. Courtney Hengler played Missy Cooper, Sheldon's long-suffering sister. Despite severe differences in personality and attitude, Missy loved her brother and called him the diminutive Shelley. She attracted Sheldon's posse as an attractive woman. Hengler has appeared in Friends with Benefits, Happy Endings, and Melissa and Joey. She's currently appearing in Cobra Kai in a starring role as Daniel LaRusso's wife. June Squibb. June Squibb played the iconic role of Meemaw, Sheldon's Texas grandmother. Sheldon was uniquely protective of his Meemaw, unlike his behavior regarding other relatives. June Squibb has been nominated for an Academy Award for her role in Nebraska. Squibb now works at Cleveland Playhouse, where she starred in multiple productions like The Play's the Thing, Antigone, and Ladies in Retirement. Bob Newhart. Bob Newhart's role contributed a great deal to the series as Arthur Jeffries, a children's television host who portrayed Professor Proton. This was the hero character that inspired young Sheldon to become a scientist, and Sheldon's dream sequence usually featured Jeffries or his alter ego Professor Proton. As things progressed, Newhart appeared dressed as Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars apparel. Newhart won an Emmy for his stammering, uncertain portrayal of a superhero, and he gave Sheldon advice on personal matters like initiating sexual relations with Dr. Amy Fowler. These are some of the funniest moments of the entire series. Bob Newhart is known for self-deprecating style, his one-sided phone conversations, and high production values, including full orchestration for his sitcoms. Today, Bob Newhart tackles the occasional guest appearance, but he spends most of his spare time with his grandchildren, streaming shows and movies, and paying attention to his wife of 57 years, Ginny. Credits include the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, 58 appearances on The Tonight Show, The Bob Newhart Show, and Newhart. Occasional and short-term guest stars. Some of the best guest stars on The Big Bang Theory had relatively short visits that created astounding effects. The occasional and short-term guest stars on the show include the following actors. Margot Kathleen Harshman. Margot Kathleen Harshman played research assistant Alex Jensen for a brief period, known for her roles as Tammy Dean on Even Stevens and Delilah Fielding McGee on NCIS. The Big Bang role was another research assistant for Sheldon. Harshman has her recurring role on NCIS, and she's played one of Fozzie Bear's girlfriends on The Muppet Show series. Alessandra Torresani. Alessandra Torresani played Claire, a writer of a children's science fiction series. She, Howard, and Raj met in the comic book store and promptly became involved in a three-way love triangle. Torresani is bipolar and now hosts programs of emotional support for bipolar victims. Stephen Merchant. Stephen Merchant played a brief role on Big Bang as Dave Gibbs, a British man who considers Sheldon and Leonard as superstars. In real life, Merchant is credited with writing and directing the British version of The Office. Merchant co-wrote, co-produced, co-directed, and starred in the comedy crime series The Outlaws. He also pursues stand-up comedy when he gets a chance. Ian Scott Rudolph. Ian Scott Rudolph appeared in 6 episodes as Captain Sweatpants, and he spoke in his first lines on the last episode to comic book store owner Stewart. His credits include work on Malcolm in the Middle. Laura Spencer. Laura Spencer played Emily Sweeney on Big Bang, and she also has credits for playing an intern on Bones. She's also received excellent notices for performing as Jane Bennett in an adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. she has not appeared in any role since 2017. Some of the hallmarks of the series include the longest-running multi-camera sitcom in history, countless awards and nominations, and rocketing to A-list fame for all regular cast members, even those who were relatively unknown beforehand. Some of the best short-term guest stars include Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill Nye the Science Guy starred as himself. The man became a legend among children for generations and appeared as the result of one of Sheldon's schemes for getting revenge for an imagined slight. Nye currently leads the Planetary Society CEO, and the organization ranks as the world's largest nonprofit group supporting space science. The man continually makes a strong impression on young minds. Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking brought his great intellect to bear on putting Sheldon in his place by playing himself, the acknowledged genius scientist. Back-and-forth barbs and various guest appearances panned multiple seasons before the quadriplegic scient's death, creating a lasting trib. Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher also appeared as the Princess of Nerds before her death. The series tried to feature guest stars from Star Wars and Star Trek as often as possible, and Carrie Fisher starred as herself in a light-hearted dream sequence with Sheldon and James Earl Jones as Darth Vader. LeVar Burton. LeVar Burton provided hilarious contributions to the series over the years, such as partying half-naked in Sheldon's apartment or guest starring on Sheldon's video series Fun with Flags. Burton had a disastrous effort to qualify as a Jeopardy guest host, then unexpectedly declined the honor. Instead, he plans to host episodes of Trivial Pursuit and the occasional guest star gig promoting Star Trek: The Next Generation. Stan Lee. Stan Lee of legendary comic book fame arranged a visit to Stewart's comic book store. However, Sheldon had a conflicting engagement and missed the visit. Penny, however, determined where Stan Lee lived and brought Sheldon along for a surprise visit. Stan Lee Universe recently signed a deal with Marvel to use the name and likeness of Stan Lee in future feature films and television shows. Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill played himself when Howard returned his lost dog. In gratitude, he agreed to officiate at Sheldon and Amy's wedding. The show exacerbated tensions between Star Trek and Star Wars fans, but Hamill turned out to be the right man for the job. Hamill continues to cash in on his Star Wars fame and most recently performed as Luke Skywalker in an episode of the Book of Boba Fett. The Sky's the Only Limit. One of the most successful and longest-running sitcoms in television history, CBS's Big Bang Theory is able to boast about some pretty impressive things. Recently, it surpassed the iconic sitcom Cheers as the longest-running multi-camera sitcom in television history. It's won countless awards and racked up a truly absurd amount of nominations beyond that. Its starring cast have skyrocketed to A-list fame, regardless of whether they were known or unknown prior to the series premiere.